deprogram you.
You need to deconstruct me.
Welcome to another proof of life. It's been a while, and we needed to prove our existence.
It's been too long. How are you?
I'm okay. I'm a little tired, but I'm good. And I watched a movie last night, and it was fun, so I'm feeling better. But, just chugging along.
I have several questions. The first one is, what are you tired about? Is it mentally tired or is it physically tired?
I'm tired in general. Like, I wake up tired, and I don't think that's good.
I know. We're going to segue this, how do you say this? We're going to talk about this offline, maybe. We can do some, what about joining me on exercise once a week?
Would love, but there's just one problem.
What?
I'm tired.
You're tired to begin with. But that's the counterintuitive idea of exercising.
Isn't it so funny? Yeah, you have to exercise
could be gym
to feel
buddies.
less tired.
That could be cool.
Sadly, you live in what? Culver City?
Yeah.
It's too far. It's not
going to work.
It's not going to work.
We can't even be friends in LA because we're 20 minutes apart. That's rule number 1.
No, I know. It's insane.
Okay. And what movie did you see?
Death of a Unicorn.
I really want to see that one. Fun trailer.
Yeah, it was. I honestly wasn't too enticed by the trailer, but the movie was fun and funny, and I enjoyed it.
What is the genre?
It is like a surrealist dark comedy.
It's a little bit gory. It's like a slashery. It's fun. Yeah, I like that. I wanna do movies like that.
Very, very fun. Did you watch a movie recently?
Oh yeah, I watch movie every day. Actually, I watch again. Last night, Mercedes, my wife, presented Alemania, which is Germany in Spanish, for those who don't speak outside of this podcast, because we both do. Alemania is a great movie. It's a coming-of-age movie done in Argentina, and she presented it in the Mexico embassy, which was great, very great.
How cool!
Yeah, because the filmmaker couldn't attend, and so it was a great way to see it again. It was very, very cool. I want to ask you about the things you've been watching this week, unless you want to talk more about the Unicorn movie, but it sounds like you don't want to spoil it.
No, it's not about me spoiling it. There's just not much to it, and I think that I've just covered it. It's fun, it's funny, it's a dark comedy, very gory, and it is what it was,
Amazing.
I've been watching Adolescent, like everybody else and their mom, on Netflix, UK series.
Should not watch this show.
No, they should. Honestly, they should, because we got a problem. It is a worldwide problem. The men in this country, in all the countries apparently, it's the problem. And I'm glad it was addressed in such a poetic way.
So tell us about the show.
It's about this kid, and he's an adolescent.
How old is he?
Oh, shoot, I don't know. How old is he?
Is he like
13?
13? So it's like
13.
Is that adolescent already, or is like tween? No, it's just full-blown adolescence.
It's adolescence, yeah.
He's a good guy.
Oh my goodness. Look, I fell for the trap. I was so convinced by end of episode 1. I was like, this guy didn't do it. It's going to be
Look at his face.
It's going to be so fun to find out who did it. We're going to get to the bottom of it. It's going to be very detective showy. No.
Billy, what have you done?
Completely different than what I expected. And so that was a nice surprise. And I'm sure a lot of people, or at least the people who watch this podcast, know the premise of the show.
Should we spoil the shit out of it and say fuck it?
It's been long enough for
Let's
sure. But basically this kid, he gets arrested for the murder of a girl in his class who he claims he was not friends with. Yet the girl was stabbed multiple times. And so he's taken in, they study him. The parents are in shock. We follow the parents in the last episode, and it's very, very jarring and very scary.
I agree with you. I think it's very scary. It's very oppressive to watch, because it's done on single shots, right? Oneers. It takes you along for the ride in a way that it's so oppressive. You feel the angst of this family, and you don't want the kid to be guilty. And it's like so deep in shit that at some point it's very hard to still empathize with him. But I think from a male's perspective, I think what the interesting thing about the show is that it's not punitive about the kid. It kind of relays the journey that he took to get there, and not forgives the kid for what he's done, but in a way lays out the clues on how to prevent it. It's a very pedagogical show, and that it shows you, okay, this is the process of radicalization of youth that this kid took. He is is the son of a working class family in the north of England. There's nothing special about him. The parents are nice, loving parents, but he got radicalized online, and he took a path that got him there. And I think can I push back on the show a little bit?
Sure, of
Maybe,
course.
just maybe, there is not enough of a path forward. And I don't want to assign the show the responsibility to tell us what to do with this problem. It's such a massive societal problem across so many countries. But what do we do about it? How can we empower kids, boys and girls, just so they don't feel so disenfranchised that they take this path? I don't think the show tell us about that. In a way, it just says, all right, this is what boys are doing, right? They're going online and basically they're seeing things that are weaponizing their own insecurities against women and girls. And it's unfortunately the most extreme version of the outcome of that, but it's so common in between. Harassment and bullying, all those things are rampant, and maybe they don't get to the murder, but they really are something that everybody's dealing with.
Yeah. Yep, it's affecting everybody. Everybody's aware of it, it feels like. Well, if you want to be aware, you become aware. But that's like such an interesting discussion to have. Not in this episode, but I would love to talk about it offline because it's like, it's in everything. The solution is so hard because it comes down to the politics of where you are, how you're raised, what your access you have to media, the food that you eat, which is insane to say, but it's like, kids now experience puberty at a much younger age. So it's an all-encompassing thing. And I don't know. It's scary, but I'm also like, do I not want to be a parent? It's too much of a risk, you know?
Oh, it makes me so happy. I will not be a parent. Oh my God, I was watching the show and I was like, I wanted to hug my cats. And
Your cats would never murder someone.
well, they would. I have similar problems with my male cat on the wild, which is crazy. So
Stop.
I promise you, I have this very same problem in the miniature version that is being the caretaker of a male cat. He's very aggressive. He's castrated. He's neutered, but he's out. So he's an indoor and outdoor cat that goes around, loves people, but hates cats. He will jump on the fence of houses and get in the house and try to expel the local cats from their own homes. And I get phone calls of angry, I
You have
had
an
a whole
aggressive anger issue.
people that love cats are
Yeah.
forgiving, and especially because he's very beautiful. He's very white. So there's a white privilege, literally white bleach privilege that comes with this cat. But also, I think cat lovers are very kind of understanding of the situation. But every day I'm like, this cat will murder another cat or lose an eye. And then I'm going to have to do I'm going to go through a mini adolescence where this cat will be, I don't know what happens to them, but same thing.
Nico, I'm so sorry for all that you're dealing with.
Drama.
Oh my God. I mean, men are the problem. Let's just all say it. That's the truth. But no, it's an interesting show to watch. People should check it out if they haven't seen it. And I actually sympathized more with the dad in that last episode than I did with the kid. Because that acting from the parents was phenomenal. Holy shit. I just wanted to cry.
The actor who plays the dad is also the writer, is one of the writers.
Stop.
Yeah.
Talent. That's talent. Yeah.
So good.
Okay, moving on to the studio.
I so want to hear you talk about this.
Okay, well,
because you got me into it.
Okay, good. So I had a friend that unfortunately, the studio is the Seth Rogen show on Apple TV about Hollywood, right? And I was so excited. I watched the first 2 episodes, loved the second episode. It's just like a fun satire, you know? And I told my friend to watch it and he was like, I don't like it. It's like Seth Rogen isn't likable. It's just everybody just, it's just like they're jerking each other off. Like it's too Hollywoody, you know? And I was like, okay, but I kind of see it from a different perspective. I think it shines a light on how stupid all of it is, on how stupid and how seriously we take all of this, how this Seth Rogen character, this white man, just takes his job so seriously, wants to create, he wants to bring film back, and he is a fool. He's a fool. It's so fun to watch, and I think it's not meant to be taken that seriously.
I have a question for you, because from both of us, you are the one that is more entrenched, I would say, with the film, film and TV industry in a professional way. And I wonder how much of it, when you watch this show, how much of it rings true?
Oh my God, a lot. I had coffee with a writer yesterday, and we were just like, holy shit, yeah, the execs will, to your face, say they love you, they love your work, turn around and talk shit about you behind your back because they're so frustrated. But rightly so. Some writers are dicks. Some directors are assholes, and it's weird. We all just like hate each other. We all hate our lives, and we're all just like angry, and we want to like take it out on something, you know, and we're making something, so one could say, trivial. We're not saving lives, but you know, we are creating art, and it's a very passionate job, I guess.
I am hoping that one day someone will do the same with advertising, because advertising is an industry that could be parodied. I mean, I want a Mad Men, but satire. That's what I want. I'm putting it out there. It's not for me to write or do, but someone should do it, because it's analog of how crazy and ridiculous marketing is. So ridiculous, and there's so much intersection between I mean, there's even a character in the show that is a marketing person that it's so funny. It's one of my, and she's amazing. She's this actress. It's so funny.
Hahn, I love her.
Hun, yeah, it's so funny, and she's one of my favorite characters. And advertising could have its own show, and then the art world, the fine art world, another show. There's another show called The Franchise. I think it's HBO, that is about Marvel. We talked about the show before. It's about Marvel movies. It's a set of a Marvel or superhero movie, and it's done by writers from some writers of Succession. It's very well written, so funny, and it's the same thing but for blockbuster movies or something. It's kind of like a cousin of this show.
I didn't like it. I didn't like the first episode.
You didn't like that?
Watching the second episode. I tried watching the second episode. I just didn't find it funny enough, and I think that the studio is just a little funnier, a little wittier, and I just like the writing more. It's interesting that show is written by Succession writers, because the studio is written by Veep writers, and the Veep and Succession are very different shows. So it speaks to definitely the tone of those shows. I
love Veep so much. It's so funny. I miss it. So I wanted to ask you if, I mean, you know this because I sent you some pictures. So I've been really in awe with what the internet is calling the big Ghiblification of the internet. Have you heard about that? You saw the images I sent you of us as Ghibli characters.
Mm-hmm.
So OpenAI just released an update to their model, to their latest model, and this version of it has a new image generator. And what it's different about it is that the image generator, which we've seen a lot and they've been very good for a long time, scarily good, this time it's very well integrated with the natural language thing. So you can talk to this thing and it has a clear understanding. I wouldn't say awareness. All these words, understanding, awareness, are metaphors because it doesn't understand anything in practice, and it's not aware of anything. But in practice, when you actually interact with it, it has a clear understanding of what you're trying to create as an image, and also is very good at reading images. So you can put your own picture there and it will turn it into something else. You can say, create an illustration with it, and it will translate that image into an illustration in a way that we haven't seen before because it's so accurate. And weirdly enough, one of the styles that it creates very well is what everybody's calling a Studio Ghibli style, which is a little bit deceiving because it's actually Hayao Miyazaki style, the director of Studio Ghibli. Studio Ghibli has produced 22 movies. 12 of those 22 movies have been Hayao Miyazaki, which is, he is kind of like the brainchild of this veteran animator. You like his movies?
Mm-hmm, I do.
Spirited Away, Neighbor Totoro.
I love Spirited Away so much.
Princess Mononoke. They're really engraved in popular culture. I think everybody knows about what I'm talking about.
He is an artist. I love him.
It's very artistic, and the movies are very whimsical and folksy and not plot driven at all. Like, I'm actually surprised how popular they are in a world that it's always looking for story and kind of payoff, because the movies don't have any payoff. They're kind of meditations on ideas and worlds and folk stories. And so suddenly, I don't know if this is organic or by design, and I intuitively think this is by design. OpenAI starts pushing the idea that you can now create Studio Ghibli pictures, and the internet explodes. Everybody is doing every possible picture, every possible frame of a movie in a Studio Ghibli style or Miyazaki style. First question is, I wonder why that happened, in terms of this thing can create any sort of style, but everybody is obsessed with this one. I think partially is because it's when you put a picture of your life through this thing and it creates a Miyazaki style picture, it's so warm, it's so inviting, you look so cute in it. I feel like in a weird way it makes you feel, okay, my life wasn't that fucked up after all when I see it through the lens of this thing. It almost makes you feel like your life was like well lived in a weird way.
Yeah.
Have you seen the pictures?
Yeah, I don't have such a strong connection with them. I'm just so annoyed that people are doing this. It's just annoying to me.
So what, you're upset about it?
Yeah, I'm upset about it.
OpenAI valuation today, as we're recording, is $300 billion. And one could say this new model has been pushed out, and there's a huge marketing campaign on the backs of Studio Ghibli when everybody is creating pictures, and the owner, Sam Altman, the founder of OpenAI, has put his own picture in X as a Studio Ghibli picture, right? So his picture is like that, right? You could argue that they're making a lot of money in the backs of artists when you see this. At the same time, I'm not that worried about people creating the pictures, because I think it's, at the end of the day, it's like fun art on steroids. We've seen fun art for a really long time. People do Studio Ghibli homage pictures, but they need to have the skills to do it, right? Having said that, what I'm a little bit more worried about is the actual use of these corporations of things like Studio Ghibli style pictures for their own marketing purposes, even if it's organic marketing, not directly, of course. They're not creating ads with it, but there's an organic reach. Let me tell you, OpenAI is facing a very hard battle, which is all this AI things are commodifying. Everything looks the same. Any company can do whatever they are doing. There's no moat, as they call it. There's no real difference. So when you are using this kind of pictures very engraved in culture to create your own media campaign, in a way you're fighting that marginal fight that you can do because your product is not that different than all the other products out there. So what you're doing is like you're creating this as a way to become the Coca-Cola of everyone else, right? Like there's a lot of colas, but Coca-Cola is all about the brand. So OpenAI has one shot right now to survive, which is to become the Coca-Cola, the Band-Aid of AI, because their product is not that different than all the other products. And they're doing it by exploiting Studio Ghibli's image. So that's the part that is troubling to me. Not people using it, but corporations actually exploiting it, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's an exploitation 100%. I wish it were illegal. I wish that the artist could retain, some sort of control over the images and over his artistry. Is that just, we're past that? Like they're not going to get, they can't get sued?
I don't think that they can get sued, but I do think that at some point Studio Ghibli will send a cease and desist. Basically, the only thing that OpenAI needs to do is to write, if anyone asks for a Studio Ghibli picture, deny. That's it, as simple as that. And what's weird about it, I was trying other styles yesterday, and funny enough, I was saying they lift the ban on styles because for a long time they had like IP protection in OpenAI models. So you would try to create an Avenger picture and you wouldn't allow you to do it. And as of yesterday, that was in place. So you can't prompt. I was trying my favorite comic book artist, Chris Ware. Sorry, Chris Ware, but I was just for experimental purposes. And I was trying to create an image in the style of Chris Ware, and this thing would not allow me to do it. It would know
Wait,
what it is.
But then why does it let you do it to the Studio Ghibli characters?
And that is the question. So I don't know this. Maybe in the future we'll know why they decided not to lift that. There could be a very weird calculation that is the awareness that we're getting out of the Studio Ghibli style. It's so big that maybe surpasses the worry that we may get sued by Studio Ghibli, because we probably can settle. We have enough money in our $300 billion valuation. We have a war chest that is big enough that we can fight them off and at some point reach a settlement where we can turn it off once this thing has passed. Because those are trends that pass, right? Like we've seen it many times with these filters, face filters. People go nuts for about like a month and then it's old news. Nobody will want to do this in 2 months. So my intuition is that they had to make the decision to say, this is too good for us. This is bringing too much awareness and too much money that I think it's worth fighting an animation studio from Japan that is like tiny. I think if you count, I was doing this with ChatGPT, if you count the revenue of all movies of Miyazaki for his 46 years at work, it's like $1 billion.
So
it shrinks compared to the money that they're making, right?
So you're saying that OpenAI decided to use the small studio's IP essentially to make themselves well known or to establish themselves as the Coca-Cola of AI?
What I'm saying is this probably happened organically. So what happens with these things is they train the model and then they figured out, okay, what can it do? Right? So in a weird way, they learn the abilities of the model after the fact that they train it. And apparently I mean, what becomes apparent is that they are testing the image capabilities of this new model, and they try this thing. And surprisingly, it does a very good job at recreating Studio Ghibli pictures, and it does this very cute thing. And I'm not a journalist, I should track it down. But when they see that there's an organic reach and everybody's doing it, they decide not to block the particular IP of Studio Ghibli.
It's frustrating because it's like, so a person could go into OpenAI and say, create a 20-second commercial in the style of Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And it will give them a commercial and it will be good. I've seen these videos and it's just so frustrating. It's just like I mean, Nico, I don't know how you're not just more infuriated, to be honest.
Okay.
I think like you just created a short film with AI, right?
Yeah.
Right? And I want to know from your perspective, like, how do you see us artists, writers, directors, crew members, like behind the camera people, how do you see us retaining our livelihood with AI and what they're allowing?
So there's a few things. So the first thing you mentioned before was, all right, what happens when someone creates something in the style of Wes Anderson, right? A commercial, or you said commercial, and that's a key word, because I think the first thing is to understand that any exploitation of IP created by an AI or a person, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's whole to copyright infringement, right? So if I hire artists to create something in the style of Wes Anderson that is not, let's say that it's not fun art, but I'm making profit out of it. Okay, we have very robust ways to stop that, right? So I'm not so worried about copying styles of well-established artists, because there are ways to do, because it's been done, and maybe you could argue, okay, the scale, the flood of images will be very hard to just stop legally, right? But if someone is making real money out of an IP or style of someone else and it's provable, I think we have ways to do it. We have ways to stop that, or at least legally there are ways to stop it. Now, the other question of livelihood is about replacement, right? Is this replacing labor? So the reason I'm not freaking out, it's because I'm trying to keep my cool and in understanding that this is just bigger than anything we've seen before, right? It's so big that it's way beyond corporations, right? So you could frame this on a labor versus capital, right? And if you do that, you would say, all right, OpenAI is making money off the backs of artists and now. But I would say that this is so big that even OpenAI has a very fragile position right now in the market, because this is supposed to change everything. When, let's say, China comes in with a free model that does as well as OpenAI, it puts them at risk. There are open source models that are not beholden to any corporations that are out there, and people are using them, right? So the first thing we need to understand is that we need to adapt. This is not going to change. There's not going to be a legal containment for the general technology. There could be for copyright, but that's not our problem. We're not established. We're not Wes Anderson that have like a signature style that can be copied, right? We are artists that are working in the environment and trying to survive with the industry. I would say that we are very, very far away from writers being replaced completely. Like, you always going to need a writer that actually is behind the work, because intent really matters, and these models don't have intent. You're shaking your head. I think
I'm shaking my head. I think you're being very optimistic. I think it's advancing at such a speed. It's going from having a TV writer's room of 12 writers to actually just really needing one writer. It is going to shift things tremendously. And yes, we can adapt, but tell me, like, how, like, it's going to just get rid of so many jobs. Like, is it not?
I think that what we've seen before is yes. The
Yes.
short answer
Okay.
is yes.
Thank you. Yes.
100%. And listen, and I am not an optimist. I'm not you call me an optimist. I am not. I don't think I'm first of all, what I'm not is an evangelist. I'm not here to tell you this is great. I'm here to tell you what I'm seeing here is that it's inevitable. And I'm seeing ways forward. The ways forwards that I see are basically adopting the technology, right? I think it's very important that we put our hands in the dough, because this is a technology that has been shaped by forces outside of our control. We need to put our foot at the door and say, all right, I'm here. I'm going to use it. I'm going to have an opinion about it. And I'm going to be part of the conversation. I think at least that's for people who want to adapt. There is a place for activism against it. And I think activism also has a role to play in this conversation. I feel like people who are completely against it should try to create be public about their stance and be informed. Now, how can writers adapt? I think by using it and hoping that what it does is creates more opportunities, and the jobs that we see now and we have change and transform into other jobs that this technology will bring. Because what we've seen historically is these technologies create opportunities and destroy opportunities. The problem is, what pace is the transition? If the transition from a new technology is too fast, then folks don't get to adapt because they just don't have the new jobs are not created. You lose your job, and then by the time the new job is created, it just basically is for someone else to take because you're out of the game. So I would say try to use it, try to be critical about it. Don't be acritical, but try to augment your work with it. That's my only thought on being optimistic.
I am a very adaptable person, and I'm very open-minded, and I do want to adapt and use AI. It saddens me because it's just going to change everything. It's going to change everything. But it's funny because Death of a Unicorn is actually a very good metaphor for the greed and the corruption and how AI, if abused, can go terribly wrong. So with that, I want to wrap this up. And if anyone's out there on the studio side, I mean, like, essentially the people who need to step in are people with power on the studio side who can help us create like regulations and team up with the unions and like make sure that this doesn't, spiral out of control. But
I like that.
Once again, greed. People are greedy.
Yeah, that's a good depressing note to end. I appreciate it.
Hey, that's what we're here for. That's what we're here for. But it was lovely catching up with you.
Let's do it again.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Take care. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.